Welcome back, subscribers. This is Johnny Hopper. I think I'm going to start calling this segment MX Unfiltered. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that sound good?
Oh my God, yes!
Anyway, I'm just going to jump right into a few things. Little disclaimer, in this segment, I'm probably going to offend a good majority of you. And that's sort of my goal, to get a conversation started and just my insight on how I thought the races went and how they should have gone and what went wrong, what went right, type of a thing. So just prepare yourself is all I've got to say. So first thing I want to talk about is Kawasaki and how they just literally screwed Cianciarulo over. This dude just gets released from his contract, doesn't even race the last couple nationals because of it, because they want to go sign this AC guy. And it's just another example as how this industry doesn't really care about the riders. It's just about a number. And what's the bottom line? How many can you sell? Can you win races? Blah, 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 blah. And Cianciarulo has proven to be a top 5, maybe with a little bit extra help. He's gotten some top 3s. You could see this guy winning a couple Supercrosses. That's my opinion. And just to throw him on the ground, leave him without a ride, just so AC can come up, I think it's not necessarily a double standard, because you only have so much money to work with, which sucks. I personally think maybe we should do something where we do in football, where this is how much you're going to give to all your teammates. This is what the league can spend on their players, and whether they want to give Tomac 99% of it and then the other guy 1% of it. Maybe we should have sort of a union. I can't believe I'm freaking saying a union for Supercross and motocross, where here's what you can max pay the riders, and then also, boom, here is what you can max spend on a team. I think it'd make racing better and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, look at the Monster Energy Cup. You see guys like Reed on their own team effort again. And yeah, Reed's in his mid-30s, and so, power to this guy. I can't believe he's been around this long and has stayed as healthy as he has. But we saw it a couple years ago with Barsha. Maybe I'm going on a little bit of rant here, but we saw it with Barsha, where he was on his own deal and he wasn't doing very well. And then he got on a factory ride, and then all of a sudden he started doing a lot better. I mean, I guess there's the exception Dean Wilson. When he was on his own deal, he ended up leading the majority of, I think it was A1 last year or something. But that's a rare occurrence for something like that to happen. And then he also had a lot of backing from his YouTube and just outside presence. He was literally really using social media to his advantage. And speaking of Deano, he qualified third in one of the track layouts. I think it was the reverse one. Was it the reverse one? Oh, it was the outside one. He qualified third with a 55.6, and AC was a 55.1. And this dude ends up crashing in a rhythm section, and it hurts his hip. They haven't released anything more. I'll keep you guys updated. But this guy just seemed to just keep getting knocked out and knocked down. And that's another caveat as why we're not seeing guys like Webb, Marvin, Roxon, these guys racing the MX of Nations, the Monster Energy Cup, the Red Bull Straight Rhythm. It's not worth it. People don't understand how dangerous this sport is. And in a single instant, one error, one cross rut, something, hopefully you remember what happened, but can ruin your whole year or even your whole career. And these guys don't get paid. 99% of the money goes to the top 3 or 4 riders, and then everyone else gets paid almost dirt nothing, which sucks. It needs to change. And you can't even dangle $1 million in front of these guys to get them to try to sign up for this Monster Energy Cup, because a lot of them are going, there's no way I'm even going to be able to win, let alone win 3 main events in a row to win the Monster million. So why should I even show up and risk when I've got a contract that's going to pay me 50 grand or 200 grand to race the Supercross? I can't lose that because I lose my livelihood. So fuck it. I'm not going to sign up and race. If there just was more money in the sport, we'd have more riders and the fans would have more just good racing to watch. So pretty damn cool that Tim Geister showed up. This guy, world champion, you know, so this guy knows how to ride a dirt bike. And I know there's this huge war going on between USA and all the European guys that, oh, we suck and blah, blah, blah. But guys, this was in my opinion, one of the most technical Monster Energy Cups that we've had. Usually they're not as technical. I actually personally like this track and the layout that they did with reversing it more than the last year's pass. I wish that they would get rid of the sand and put in an actual freaking whoop section. Try to slow people down. I don't know, put a whoop section way in the back so that they're not sweeping coming in at 60 miles an hour. That's just my personal opinion. You guys could probably argue with me, well, that's what makes the Monster Energy Cup so cool. But getting back to the European guys versus the American guys, European guys spend all year round riding motocross. Do you think they might be better at riding motocross? Just throwing that out there. And then the US guys try to spend the majority of their time riding Supercross because they make the majority of their money on Supercross. Think they might be better at riding Supercross when these guys never ride Supercross? It's hard to say who's the best overall rider. We could definitely say that, yeah, they kick the crap out of us in motocross for sure. But Supercross goes the other direction. Anyway, awesome to see him here. I'd love to see these guys do a full Supercross season, but that's probably not going to happen. And another cool thing is we saw Mike Alessi, I believe it was on a 325 big bore two-stroke. Yeah, the nostalgia is pretty damn cool, but just not very effective when you're racing against 450. So, you know, Alessi's never been an amazing Supercross rider. Definitely can get the hole shots and blah, blah, blah. But just not the best for Supercross racing against other 450s.
Oh, there's Mike. That career first heat race win. As we said, training with Michael Byrne now, and how important it was. Mike, I can...
And if you guys watch the Supercross Futures, I think you had to finish like top 3 in your region to then be invited to this deal. So you've got some really, really good riders. Actually, some riders that are already on factory teams, you know, like Lawrence. But if you saw some of those guys case some of those jumps, you know, it looked like what you would expect a dirt bike to handle these jumps. Because if you guys have ever been in Supercross, maybe try to get a pit pass, maybe try to see if you can do a track walk, because it is so different. Absolutely incredibly, it's something you should do, is walk one of these tracks. Because seeing them on a stadium or on TV just doesn't do them justice, especially with the ruts. And if you're able to do that even at a national, I would say do that at a national too, because you're going to see how deep and how rough the tracks are. Because most local tracks end up staying fairly well groomed and smooth. So if you can walk a national track, I recommend doing so. But we saw Eli, where he like jumps into this triple, just faces it head first. Bike just completely soaks it up. Probably made his butthole pucker, but that factory Kawasaki suspension just soaked that shit up, and he was able to ride out of it and stay safe. You know, and then you see some of these other bikes, nowhere near the same comparison. All right, these guys are amazing athletes, but the motorcycles help incredibly. And back to just the Kawasaki guys. Do you guys like that new Kawasaki all green plastic? Like, now that I actually have to buy a bike, I'm thinking, what kind of a motorcycle do I want? Do I want the Honda? Do I want the Kawasaki? Do I want the Yamaha? Do I want another Husky? So the Kawasaki's in there now. Like, I have liked them. I've sit a couple on them at the shop. They're skinny, and you know, these guys are making them look good. Absolutely. Do I know that I'm not getting one of these bikes? Oh, hell yeah. I'm on the fence about all the green plastic. I don't think it looks as bad as everybody says it looks. Tomac was definitely the favorite to win, especially with...
Oh my god, I am gonna absolutely lose my shit. It's especially, not X. This guy, concussions are real, people. Don't hit your head, and if you do, buy a new helmet.
Webb, Rocks, and Muscan not being there, like his competition wasn't there. At least the majority of them weren't there. And of course, he made a little mistake and ended up losing his chances. But I was surprised that he even came back from 10th to 3rd in a 10-lap race on a track like that, because this was, in my opinion, the easiest to pass Monster Energy Cup race that we had. Usually they're very one line, and it's hard for these guys to pass. So I was impressed with Tomac how he did that. And if you watched him come through the pack, this guy was out to win $1 million. He was knocking into people, being very aggressive, which I'm not going to be mad at him, because it's for $1 million. Like, you got to do what you got to do. It was interesting that last race, how nice he was being to his own teammate, though. It was just something to point out. And then coming to AC is definitely going to be a heavy hitter coming into the 2020 Supercross season. But I do have to point out that in just a couple months from him winning the Outdoor Nationals to now, the guy looks considerably thicker. So take that for what it is. I'm going to politely move on. Vegas is just always so dry and slippery. We saw a lot of guys just losing traction, and that's just because you guys, Supercross suspension is so stiff. It's hard to have something stick without a berm there. So if you run your suspension super stiff and you're in like a flat corner, man, it's not going to compress enough, even at the speeds that you're going, to get that bike to try to stick and hook up traction. So these guys ended up sliding out quite a bit just because of the dirt is moving. It's very dry and slippery. And you got to remember, this is not moto suspension. This is very, very stiff suspension, which helps in those high speed areas to keep that head high speed wobble out. So if you guys ever have enduros or any GNCCs or Corks races or whatever, hair scramble, and it's really, really fast, always go up on your clickers, make them stiffer and slower. That's going to help considerably. And for Supercross, that's sort of the way to go if you can't valve it and respring it and blah, 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 blah. But if you're full on Supercross, you're going to revalve it and respring it. Anybody that I always brought around my compound, everyone's like, oh my God, Johnny, how do you ride this thing? You can't even move. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not the best for corners, but have you gone through whoops in it? That's the thing. Go through whoops in it, feels very good, very stable. I always like to set my bike up for the whoops. So this is Johnny Hopper, and I'm pretty much done rambling on. So I don't know what else to say. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Who you think is going to win the 2020 Supercross Championship. And don't forget, we're sponsoring a 250 Supercross rider. We're trying to give them away a $60,000 training program and some money. And I can't stay serious right now. My wife is behind the camera and she's... Baby, okay.